Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into the fascinating concept of devolution. Now you might be thinking devolution, isn't that like the opposite of evolution? And you wouldn't be entirely wrong, but like most things worth discussing, it's complicated. Devolution can mean different things in different contexts, from politics to biology to pop culture. It can be about transferring power, losing traits, or even just a metaphorical descent into chaos. So buckle up, grab your thinking caps, and let's explore the 5 most common interpretations of devolution.
So let's start with the most literal interpretation of devolution, the transfer of power from a central government to regional or local governments. Think of it like this. Imagine a giant, delicious cake. That cake represents all the power a government has. In a centralized system, one big slice takes it all. But with devolution, you cut that cake into smaller pieces and share them out. Each region gets a slice, meaning they get to make more decisions for themselves. But why share the cake? Well, often it's about efficiency and local representation. Different regions have different needs and priorities. Scotland, for example, might have different ideas about healthcare or education than England. Devolution allows them to tailor policies to their specific circumstances. One of the most well-known examples of devolution is in the United Kingdom. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland all have their own devolved parliaments or assemblies with varying degrees of autonomy. They can make laws on things like education, healthcare and transportation, while the UK Parliament in Westminster retains control over things like defence and foreign policy. But the UK is not alone. Spain also provides a fascinating case study. The country has granted significant autonomy to regions like Catalonia and the Basque Country, which have their own languages, cultures, and historical identities. This devolution of power has been seen as a way to address regional differences and promote stability. Of course, devolution in politics is a complex issue, and it's not always a smooth ride. There can be tensions between the central government and the devolved regions, particularly when it comes to issues of funding and autonomy. But at its core, devolution is about bringing power closer to the people and allowing regions to have a greater say in their own affairs.
Now, let's step out of the world of parliaments and into the boardroom, because devolution isn't just a political concept, it's also a business strategy. In the corporate world, devolution means giving more decision-making power to lower levels of an organization. Think of it as empowering the branches to make decisions about the leaves rather than everything going through the trunk of the tree. Imagine a massive company, like, a company that sells everything from books to bananas. Let's call it Megamart. Now, if every single decision about product selection, pricing, and marketing had to be made at Megamart's headquarters, things would get pretty chaotic, right? That's where devolution comes in. By giving more autonomy to individual stores or regional managers, Megamart can become more nimble and responsive to local market conditions. The manager of the Megamart in sunny California might realize that beach umbrellas are flying off the shelves, while the manager in rainy Washington state knows that rain boots are in high demand. Devolution allows them to adjust their inventory accordingly without having to jump through hoops to get approval from corporate. This kind of decentralized decision-making can lead to greater efficiency, higher employee morale, and a better understanding of customer needs. It's like giving your employees the keys to the car and saying, "Hey, I trust you to get us where we need to go." Of course, just like in politics, devolution in business requires careful planning and execution. It's important to establish clear lines of communication, set performance expectations, and provide the necessary training and support to ensure that everyone is on the same page. But when done right, devolution can be a powerful tool for businesses looking to improve their bottom line and create a more agile and responsive organization.
Chapter 3: Devolution in U.S. Politics, a post-2020 perspective. Now, let's talk about the United States, because the concept of devolution has been swirling around American politics, particularly in the wake of the 2020 election. In this context, devolution takes on a slightly different meaning. It's less about formally transferring power to states, and more about a political ideology that seeks to reduce the size and scope of the federal government. Think of it like this. Imagine the United States as a giant puzzle, with each state representing a piece. Proponents of devolution in this context believe that the states should have more autonomy to govern themselves, like each puzzle piece having its own unique shape and color. They argue that states are better equipped to address the specific needs of their citizens, and that a smaller federal government would lead to greater individual liberty and economic freedom. Now, it's important to note that the idea of states' rights and limited government has been a recurring theme throughout American history. But it gained renewed attention in recent years, fueled in part by concerns about federal overreach and a desire for greater local control. Some proponents of devolution have gone as far as to call for the peaceful dissolution of the United States, allowing states to become independent entities. However, it's crucial to emphasize that there's no concrete evidence to suggest that widespread devolution, let alone the dissolution of the United States, is imminent or even likely. While the concept of devolution has gained traction among some political circles, it remains a fringe idea with limited support among the general public.
Chapter 4. Reverse Evolution. Devolution in Biology. So far, we've been talking about devolution in the context of politics and business. But what about the natural world? Can evolution go in reverse? Well, in biology, devolution is a bit of a tricky concept. It's not exactly reverse evolution because evolution doesn't have a predetermined direction. Think of it like this. Imagine evolution as a winding road, not a straight line. Organisms aren't striving to become more advanced or complex. They're just trying to survive and reproduce in their environment. And sometimes, that means losing certain traits that are no longer advantageous. One of the classic examples of this is cave-dwelling animals. Over generations, many cave creatures have lost their eyesight and pigmentation. Why? Because in the pitch-black darkness of a cave, eyes and color don't provide any survival benefits. In fact, they can be a waste of energy and resources. So, in a way, these cave dwellers have devolved by losing traits. But it's important to remember that they haven't become less evolved. They've simply adapted to their environment in a way that maximizes their chances of survival. Another example is the loss of flight in some bird species, like the dodo. The dodo lived on an island with no natural predators, so the ability to fly became less crucial for survival. Over time, dodos evolved to be flightless, which allowed them to conserve energy and devote more resources to reproduction. So, while we might use the term devolution to describe these instances of trait loss, it's important to remember that it's still a form of evolution. It's just evolution that leads to a reduction in complexity or a loss of traits that are no longer beneficial in a particular environment.
Chapter 5. From Apes to Zombies, Devolution in Pop Culture. Finally, let's step into the realm of imagination and explore how devolution is portrayed in pop culture. From movies to TV shows to novels, devolution often serves as a cautionary tale, a way to explore our fears about the future or the consequences of our actions. One of the most common tropes is the idea of humans regressing to a more primitive state, often depicted as a descent into savagery or chaos. Think of movies like Planet of the Apes, where humans have been overthrown by intelligent apes, or Mad Max, where civilization has collapsed and humanity is locked in a brutal struggle for survival. These stories often tap into our anxieties about losing our place at the top of the food chain or the fragility of civilization. They remind us that progress is not inevitable and that our technological advancements do not make us immune to the dangers of our own nature. Another popular theme is the concept of genetic manipulation gone wrong, leading to monstrous or devolved creatures. Movies like The Fly and Splice explore the ethical dilemmas of genetic engineering and the potential consequences of tampering with the building blocks of life. And then there are the zombies. From Night of the Living Dead to The Walking Dead, zombies have become a staple of horror and science fiction. While not always explicitly framed as devolution, the imagery of decaying, mindless creatures often evokes a sense of humanity regressing to a more primal, instinctual state. Whether it's a cautionary tale about societal collapse, the dangers of unchecked technology, or simply a way to scare the living daylights out of us, devolution in pop culture reflects our deepest fears and anxieties about the future. It reminds us that progress is not always linear and that the path forward is often fraught with peril.
Outro. So, what is devolution really? Thanks for watching. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the intricacies of political power sharing to the eerie world of cave creatures and the zombie apocalypse. As we've seen, devolution is a multifaceted concept with different meanings depending on the context. It can be a positive force for change, as in the case of political devolution, where it empowers regions and brings government closer to the people. It can be a strategic tool for businesses, allowing them to become more agile and responsive to market demands. And it can be a natural process of adaptation in the biological world, where organisms lose traits that are no longer advantageous for survival. But devolution can also serve as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the potential consequences of unchecked power, technological hubris, or simply the unpredictable nature of the universe. So, whether we're talking about politics, business, biology, or pop culture, devolution offers a fascinating lens through which to view the world and our place within it. Don't miss out and subscribe for notifications.